Warning: the following content may be disturbing to some viewers. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. Join us as we follow a pride of 7 lions over 3 unforgettable days in South Africa's Kruger National Park. From the dramatic 4 buffalo kills to tense standoffs with crocodiles and vultures, and finally to the pride's quiet departure, this rare encounter reveals the raw rhythm of life and death in the wild. Witness the hunt, experience the feast, watch crocodiles and vultures move in, and finally, share the silence as the lions walk away. Filmed near Shingwedzi in Kruger National Park, this is real safari storytelling. No scripts, no filters, just Africa in its purest form. Subscribe for more breathtaking wildlife encounters. After a long drive, we finally arrived at Shingwedzi. Driving through the main gate, our excitement was through the roof. We couldn't wait to see what this wild corner of Kruger had in store for us. After a swift check-in and passport stamps, we made a beeline for the sightings board. To our delight, lions had been spotted not far from camp. Without wasting a moment, we stopped at the camp's kitchen to fill our coffee flask with hot water, set up our campsite in record time, and then hit the road in search of them. Of course, the sightings board is always a gamble. You might only have a 25% chance of actually finding the animals in the same area. Still, our hopes were sky high as we set off. As we made our way along the famous S50 River Road, anticipation grew with every bend. Every corner seemed to promise something new, something wild. Just ahead, we spotted a vehicle pulled over at the river's edge. Moments later, more cars came into view, clustered together, engines idling, cameras ready. This could only mean one of two things: a leopard or lions. As we drew closer, we noticed all the passengers quietly focused in the same direction. Our hearts skipped a beat. What would it be? As we arrived on the scene, we found them, resting on the riverbank near a pool of water, seamlessly blending in with the river sand and surrounding landscape. They weren't easily seen with the naked eye, but there they were, just as the sightings board had suggested. Our attention was fixed on the 4 lions closest to us. But just beyond them, we noticed the other 2, and something lying, struggling on the ground in front of them. They had successfully brought down a buffalo and were still focused on their kill. We had just missed the takedown. When we spoke with the people in the car next to us, we learned that we had arrived about 20 minutes too late. Earlier, a small herd of buffalo had been grazing near the water's edge when the lions launched their attack, taking down a young buffalo. If only we had skipped setting up camp, we might have witnessed it firsthand. As we watched the 4 lions near the riverbank and the 2 lions taking turns at the young buffalo, another lion appeared seemingly out of nowhere. She walked with a sense of purpose, her movements sharp and deliberate, as if she had sensed something coming their way. As she walked closer to the rock, a cloud of dust swirled across the scene, catching the light and momentarily blurring our view. All the lions on the stage froze, their attention now fixed in the same direction. The cause was clear: the unmistakable sound of a large herd of buffalo making its way toward them. The air grew thick with tension as the lions crouched lower, their muscles coiling like springs. The distant rumble of hooves grew louder with every passing second, the ground beneath us vibrating ever so slightly. The pride moved as one, eyes locked on the approaching herd, silently calculating the best moment to strike. Then, without warning, the buffalo emerged from the dust. A massive, charging wall of power and determination. The lions remained still, their focus unbroken, waiting for the perfect opportunity to pounce. We couldn't believe what was happening right in front of us. The herd moved closer, only a few meters away from the lions. The buffalo, oblivious to the danger, moved toward the water's edge to quench their thirst, unaware of the predators closing in just behind them. As the herd of buffalo approached the river, their heavy hooves stirred the dry dust, and the rhythmic sound of their steps echoed across the land. The first few buffalo neared the water's edge, their bodies heavy with thirst, the heat of the day weighing on them. Slowly, more buffalo joined, forming a large, dark mass near the river, their numbers swelling as they gathered. At first, they were cautious, glancing around nervously, but the pull of the water was too strong. One by one, they lowered their heads, dipping their snouts into the cool river. The sound of slurping and the occasional bellow filled the air, creating an eerie tranquility in the otherwise silent wilderness. The buffalo began to relax, their guard lowering as the water quenched their thirst. But the lions, only a short distance away, remained completely still. Their golden eyes followed the herd with laser-like precision, the pride spread out, blending seamlessly with the dry grass and rocks along the riverbank. Every muscle in their bodies coiled with anticipation. Then, the wind shifted. One buffalo, sensing the presence of the lions, froze. Its eyes locked onto the predators, and for a brief moment, the two stared at each other, the tension rising with each passing second. The air around us thickened, the sense of anticipation palpable as the standoff began. The first lioness, her senses honed, lifted her head slowly. With a sudden flurry of motion, a few buffalo turned toward the lions, stomping their hooves in defiance. A low rumble of aggression rippling through the herd. What followed was a standoff. The lions, poised to strike, held their ground, but the buffalo, realizing the threat, rallied together. Their massive bodies forming a wall between the predators and the rest of the herd. The tension was palpable, and for a brief moment, the two groups were locked in a standoff. In the midst of the chaos, the lions exploited the confusion. With a sudden burst of speed, they split off from the main herd, targeting the smaller, more vulnerable buffalo. The confusion among the herd allowed the lions to separate a few young buffalo from their mothers, creating an opening in the chaos. The hunt had begun. Warning: sensitive viewers should be advised. What comes next is a raw and brutal display of nature's harsh reality. The scenes that follow may be disturbing to some. With adrenaline surging and excitement electrifying the air, we watched in awe as the lions brought down the second young buffalo. It was a breathtaking moment, yet tinged with sadness. To witness such raw beauty and strength in action, but also to feel the weight of knowing that one life must be sacrificed to sustain another. After witnessing the second kill, we were in utter shock to realize there were even more young buffalo down. It was almost too much to process. 4 buffalo in total. In this scene, I'll highlight the locations of each kill, showing you our viewpoint and how the camera's zoom revealed the full scope of the chaos unfolding before us. This truly is a once-in-a-lifetime sighting, a rare privilege to witness firsthand, even though there is a deep sadness that accompanies it. The circle of life, raw and unfiltered, unfolds before us. The buffalo fought valiantly, kicking and thrashing, but the lions had the advantage, faster, stronger, and determined. The struggle was brutal, each buffalo slowly losing the will to fight as the lions took turns suffocating them. The air grew heavier, thick with the scent of fear and desperation. It was a cruel and methodical process as the lions waited for their prey to tire, each moment stretching longer than the last. This went on for the next 4 hours, the relentless struggle continuing as the pride worked in unison. Finally, they decided to take a break, retreating to a distant bank where they rested, watching the fallen buffalo from afar. The stillness of the moment hung in the air as they surveyed their hard-earned feast, waiting for the right time to return and finish what they had started. Unfortunately, it was getting late, and we had to leave, hoping we would find them still there the next morning. Returning the next morning, we found the pride still there, as if they had slept through the entire night. They had only begun to eat the one buffalo that had passed the previous day. Surprisingly, the other 3 were still alive, though weak and exhausted, their deaths looming not far ahead. A wave of sadness began to set in, witnessing their struggle and knowing the suffering they still endured. The lions had a great feast, tearing and gnawing until little remained. Piece by piece, the once mighty carcass was stripped to the bone, the ground around it smeared with blood and scattered with scraps. By the time their bellies were full and their strength renewed, there was almost nothing left but the skeleton of what had once been. After his belly was full, the lion sank into the grass for a brief rest, muscles twitching with satisfaction as he closed his eyes. With the kings of the feast momentarily withdrawn, the air shifted. Marabou storks began to stride cautiously onto the scene, their towering frames casting long, eerie shadows over the bloodied ground. Vultures followed, circling above in cautious arcs. The jungle had not grown quiet. It had simply changed rulers for a fleeting moment, the scavengers stepping in to claim what the lions had left behind. As our eyes were fixed on the birds and lions feasting in the background, a new, once-in-a-lifetime spectacle began to unfold right before us. From the dark, still waters, faint ripples betrayed the approach of crocodiles, moving with an eerie, patient precision. Slowly, deliberately, they hauled their massive, armored bodies onto the riverbank, each movement measured and almost ceremonial, as if they knew the rules of this ancient dance of survival. Every subtle shift, every silent inch closer, seemed to stretch time itself. Around them, the air was thick and heavy, buzzing with the anticipation of the hunt, while the cries of distant birds and the low growls of the lions blended into a chaotic symphony of the wild. Different species of vultures, white-backed, white-headed, and the imposing lappet-faced, gathered together in a chaotic yet strangely coordinated frenzy, circling and diving to feast as one relentless army. Their wings beat the air like ominous drums, beaks tearing, claws gripping, each species asserting its place in the pecking order, yet united by the irresistible lure of the carcass. The first crocodile reached the carcass, but the lion nearby sensed the crocodile's power in its domain. With a low growl and a cautious step back, the lion decided to retreat, walking away to drink from the water instead, a rare acknowledgement of the crocodile's dominance. While the lion drank his fill, the water rippling around him, the world seemed to pause. No birds dared approach, no crocodile stirred. His presence commanding respect even in silence. The air was thick with the scent of the kill, yet even that bold aroma seemed to bow to him. Every rustle in the grass, every distant croak of a frog felt muted, as if nature itself was holding its breath. Only the faint splash of water against his massive paws marked the rhythm of his dominance. A quiet drumbeat that reminded all who watched that he ruled this patch of the wilderness. As the lion moved off, melting into the background with the slow confidence of a king who had taken only what he needed, the water behind him began to stir. One by one, crocodiles heaved their massive bodies onto the bank, their armored hides glistening in the fading light. With jaws snapping and tails lashing, they joined the first intruders at the carcass. The hush of respect that had reigned moments before gave way to chaos. Water splashed, bones cracked, and flesh tore. The feast had begun. But just as the crocodiles ripped deeper into the carcass, a sudden commotion erupted nearby. A small scrap of meat, torn loose in the chaos, had been snatched at by a cluster of bold vultures. Their wings flapped wildly as they squabbled over the prize. In the next instant, the tall grass parted, and the lion charged. With a roar and a blur of golden muscle, he sent the vultures exploding into the air, feathers scattering like dark confetti. It was a stark reminder that though he had walked away, his authority was not to be challenged. After scattering the vultures, the lion stood tall. His gaze slid back toward the carcass, where the crocodiles feasted noisily, oblivious to his return. With a low, guttural growl, he strode forward, muscles rippling with each deliberate step. Then, in a sudden burst of fury, the lion lunged, snapping at one of the armored beasts and sinking his teeth into its scaly tail. The crocodile thrashed violently, tail whipping the air, but the message was clear. This kill still bore the mark of its king. Yet even kings know when the odds are against them. Realizing he was outnumbered, the lion released his grip, cast one last burning glare at the reptiles, and withdrew. With quiet dignity, he padded back to the water's edge and lowered his head for a slow, unhurried drink, as if to show the watching world that retreat was not defeat, but choice. While the lion drank, his reflection rippling across the surface, another member of the pride decided he'd had enough of the vultures snatching at scraps. With a sudden burst of energy, he charged, golden muscles flashing as the ground trembled beneath his paws. The scavengers erupted into chaos, wings beating, beaks snapping, angry hisses filling the air. The vultures shrieked and scattered high into the sky, leaving only a drifting storm of black feathers twisting in the wind. For the second time, the battlefield was cleared, the message unmistakable. The lions were not yet ready to surrender their kill. The second lion strolled back, unfazed, as though the chaos he had just unleashed meant nothing at all. He passed by the first lion, who remained at the water's edge, unbothered, still enjoying his drink. Side by side, their presence alone was enough to remind every scavenger lurking nearby that the kings of the bush had not yet relinquished their throne. Even more crocodiles slithered in for the feast, frightening to think how many lay hidden beneath the surface of this small pond. What remained of the buffalo had transformed from a mere kill into the nucleus of an entire ecosystem. Predators, scavengers, and even the invisible insects waiting their turn were all bound together by this single moment of death. It was raw, savage, and yet, in its brutal honesty, profoundly beautiful. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in gold and crimson, it was time to turn away, a reluctant farewell to a world that had revealed wonders beyond our wildest dreams. The lions, the crocodiles, the circling vultures, would they still claim this land tomorrow? Only the wind and time could tell. For now, all we could do was hold the memory close, savoring the raw, untamed beauty of a moment that felt both fleeting and eternal. The final morning with the lions. Returning on the third morning, the bushveld greeted us with a heavy stillness. The air carried no sounds of scavengers, no restless movement in the shadows. What remained of the buffalo kill had been reduced to scraps during the night. The lions had feasted again, and now there was almost nothing left, only a few bones and shreds of hide, scattered on the sand like the final pages of a story. The scene felt different from the chaos of the earlier days. No crocodiles lurking at the water's edge, no vultures wheeling overhead. The marabou storks had gone as well, leaving the area strangely empty. Instead, there were just the 6 lions, walking slowly, pacing up and down near the carcass. Their bellies were heavy, their coats glowed in the early light, and yet they still picked at the last scraps, unwilling to waste a single bite of what had been such a hard-won prize. For the next 47 minutes, we sat in silence, watching them. The lions were calm now, no longer tense or aggressive, but purposeful, almost ritualistic in their movements. One would crouch and gnaw at a bone, while another stretched in the grass. Thinking back on the past 3 days, the encounter had been nothing short of extraordinary. We had watched the pride at their most powerful, bringing down buffalo, suffocating them with precision and strength. We had witnessed their feasting, the bloody reality of survival in the wild, and then the drama of other animals arriving. Crocodiles rising from the water, vultures crowding the skies, marabou storks striding in like undertakers. The chaos of life and death had unfolded in front of us, wave after wave of scavengers and predators all taking their chance at the carcass. The lions had stood their ground fiercely at first, then slowly yielded pieces of the feast to the endless tide of opportunists. And now, on this final morning, we had seen the conclusion. The pride satisfied, the scavengers gone, the carcass nearly gone too. What had once been a mighty buffalo herd's fallen member was reduced to nothing more than a faint smell on the wind and a memory in the sand. It was as though they were waiting. For what? We could only guess. Then, almost without warning, one lion turned. With a slow, steady stride, it walked off into the bush, disappearing between the trees. Perhaps it was coincidence, or perhaps a signal only they understood, but the effect was immediate. One by one, the others rose, leaving the carcass behind. In perfect order, they followed the leader into the thickets, their strong shapes vanishing into the wild until the clearing was empty. And just like that, the story of the buffalo kill had ended. As the lions melted into the bush, the silence that followed was almost overwhelming. It felt as though the land itself was pausing, resetting, preparing for the next chapter. By tomorrow, new herds would pass through, birds would return, and the hyenas might still come sniffing for bones. Life in the wild never stops. For us, though, this was the perfect ending. We had been given front row seats to a raw, untamed story that few ever witness in its entirety, from the hunt to the feast to the final departure. Driving away, I couldn't help but feel both humbled and grateful. Encounters like this remind us that out here, in the great wilderness, life and death are part of the same rhythm. The lions had eaten, the scavengers had fed, and now the bush was calm again. Balance had been restored. What remained for us was the memory. 3 days, one pride of lions, and a spectacle that will stay with us for the rest of our lives.